Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. We're meeting with Roman Maliszewski, the founder of Tapster, and franchise developer Mike Weinberger. And Tapster is the groundbreaking self-serve taproom concept. Tapster is at the forefront of revolutionizing the social drink scene, and we're going to talk to Roman and Mike about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, and you are listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. We're meeting with Roman Maliszewski, the founder of Tapster, and franchise developer Mike Weinberger. And Tapster is the groundbreaking self-serve taproom concept. Hi, Roman. Hi, Mike. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marty. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. This is Roman, right?
Yeah, Roman. Sorry. Yeah, this is Roman Maliszewski. And then that's Mike is actually on a plane, so not able to make it.
Oh, okay. That's okay, Roman. I just wanted to make sure, I saw the one number calling, and I wasn't sure if you both called in on the same number. But it's great to have you on the show because, I've been following your concept for quite some time now, Roman. I would like to ask our guest, where are you calling from today, Roman?
I'm actually calling from right outside of Baltimore, Maryland. And my dad has a farm here, so I'm outside here.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay. I'm not that far, Roman. Yeah. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, actually. And nice. I know you're from this part of the country, aren't you? I think like the Philly area or you went to Princeton.
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia.
Yeah, okay, good.
I went to Princeton undergrad.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was really impressed with your background. It was the first time I saw the expression BEERpreneur, and so it kind of it got my attention. What really, when I was thinking of like the whole history of Tapster, Roman, what I didn't know was that this concept. You could really go back to I guess it was like the 1600s.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this concept and what I wanted to do, the whole idea is empowering people to become their own bartender, right? So
right.
letting you pull the taps, letting you try what you want.
Yes.
And I looked up synonyms for bartender. I literally scourged the internet and books for what is this best synonym for a bartender that can work. And I found the word tapster that used to be, it's an old English word that used to be named for the person who tapped the beer at the bars in the pubs in England.
Wow.
In the 1600s. So
that's amazing. It really is. It's incredible because, I have this theory, Roman, that I think a lot of people would like to own their own bar. You know what I mean? There's just something, I guess, I don't know if it goes back to the Cheers days or just, whatever it is, but there's just something very attractive about it, and then so you had, I know you had a little bit of, you have a lot of experience in this particular industry. What happened? What prompted you to start Tapster then, Roman?
Yeah, it's very random. I was in advertising for years. So I started my career at ad agencies and then in ad sales and did that for 13 years. So built a full career and could have stayed in that. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And I figured I'm going to take some time off. So I took a year off. I dedicated a year to travel. So I did all South America, Europe, Africa. I drove the whole U.S. in this 1 year. And while I was driving around the U.S., I was staying with friends and hanging out. And so whenever I would be in a new town, my friends would take me out. Let's go check out the coolest new bar. And every bar had an activity, had something you could do, which I thought was much more my style. I'm not a sit around do nothing guy. So I really wanted to do something. And so I had remembered a bar in Chicago that had taps at the tables. And I thought that was so cool, but my vision really was this wall, a buffet of taps for you to try and sample. And so, I love sampling new things, and I would go to these bars and there'd be 100 things on the menu, the drink menu, and you're overwhelmed and you want to try something unique, but you don't want to dive all in. So that's really what I was trying to do, is create a fun place where you could try whatever you want, like Froyo, right? Basically, I say it's Froyo.
Exactly. Well, it was so funny, bro, because I was talking to my wife about it, because she always says, it's like, who's on the show today, and I was telling her about your concept. She's like, oh my God, that is such a great idea. Why didn't we think of that? You know what I mean? So it's so clever. And it was around was it around 2000? Was it 2017? Like the first one kind of hit the streets?
Yeah, that's when the first one launched in 2017 in the Wicker Park neighborhood in Chicago, where I'm from, Chicago, right outside of there.
Okay.
So that was kind of my hometown, and then it was a blast, man. It was received so well. I mean, it was crazy. We had lines out the door to come in because we were the first in the city to do it. I mean, it was wild. And then what happened though, which is interesting, Marty, every week for the first 3 months, somebody would come in inevitably and say, "Is this a franchise?"
Yes.
And I'd never even thought about that. I didn't even know about franchising. I had no clue. I'm just a guy trying to create something cool. And so I was forced, just because of this inertia, to look into franchising and figuring out, hey, does this make sense? And so that's kind of what drove me towards franchising it, was literally public opinion.
And it seems like, it seems like it's a great model for franchising, Roman, because it doesn't seem, of course you were able to systematize it over the years, but it seems like you can also, you can teach this concept to an aspiring entrepreneur, couldn't you?
Correct. And I didn't have any bar industry before this bar experience. When I decided to do this concept, I basically decided at the end of 2014, this is what I wanted to do. I had never worked in a bar. So in the next 2.5 years, I was a bar back, I was a bus back, I was a bouncer. I literally dove into this industry and tried to learn as much as I could. And it was humbling. It was super humbling, because I had this full career in advertising. Of course. And now I'm cleaning tables. But it was great. I got to learn as much as I can. So the point of me saying that is that anybody who wants to do this does not need to have experience. And I kind of like when people don't, because we can teach them from the ground up how to do it this way, which is not a traditional bar.
It sounds like, so I'm just trying to picture in my mind, so it's like an experience when you go into a Tapster. And when I was reading, your background over the last week, it sounds like, the things that are important to you with the business, sustainability, empowerment, education. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an important part of the system as well.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. So the experience really with Tapster is we're empowering people to kind of take their time, get drinks what they want to, and as much or as little as they want of each drink, and providing not just beer and wine, not just non-alcoholic, it's everything, right? We have kombucha on tap, we have sodas, we have cold brew coffee, local, and I try to be as hyper-local as I can first. So my priority with the tap list is hyper-local first. So all the kombucha is usually somebody making it there and distributing it. Cold brew is a local brand. And then I move into bigger brands to make sure we can fill the gaps. But I want people to feel comfortable that knowing that they have anything on tap, including cocktails that we make and put in kegs. But the sustainability part is really important to me. So making sure that we don't buy cans and bottles of beer is important, and wine, because it's just it's a twofold, right? One, I'm kind of a hippie myself, so I care about the environment, and I don't want to be wasteful. But two, it's actually really good business. I don't have big garbage costs. I'm not doing a lot of waste. So it kind of works on a business sense too. So that's a huge thing. So everything that we serve can basically be reused or fully recycled. So that's a big part of my business. And then in terms of just the ease of the experience for everybody coming in is really important to me. Excuse me. So I want people to feel like, hey, this is my place. I'm not here visiting somebody. So somebody's always greeting you when you walk in. They're always saying hi. They're showing you to the taps. They show you how to pour. They show you how the system works. And then, we have things like, trivia every week. We have sip and paint classes. We have a ton of other fun, like, joint ventures with people to come in. I always want to promote other businesses to help them grow too, because I feel like there was a lot of people that helped me when I started.
Yeah, it's so exciting, Rob. When I was reading about this, because I've done so many of these interviews. I mean, I think I've done like the 900th interview, I've done. And then when I read about this concept, I said, oh my God. I said, this is brilliant. I was thinking about, in terms of, like how you're using technology, Roman, in the 1600s, they probably weren't using a lot of technology, but today, everything is technology, right? So how do you use technology, like maybe in terms of like whether it's social media or digital or anything else within the organization? Like how does it play a role in the business?
Sure. I mean, I would say, obviously, we are the forefront of using technology at a bar. Our whole system relies on the technology, right? So we're integrating. So the systems we use, obviously the self-pour technology, pour by beer, the technology we use, that's a big part of our business. But that ties into our POS system using Toast. So we tie into those, as well as Untapped, which is a kind of, it's almost a Yelp for beers. So that ties into our system too. So you can actually rate the beers that you try at Tapster through Untapped as well. So there's a lot of tie-ins. We're obviously heavy on social media, mostly Instagram, some TikTok, but it's usually at Tapster Philly or at Tapster Seattle, at Tapster Chicago. So those are all of our handles, and we're active. And what's fun is it's a fun brand. It's not boring. It's not accounting. It's not industrial cleaning. It's bars. So we can really blow out a lot of fun, people hanging out, having a good time. So we're very tied into technology, and I've always been kind of at the forefront of that. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's important, and it's true. I mean, there's because there's so many different types of franchises out there today, Roman. And this is one of these franchises where you can have fun and make money at the end of the day, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. You can do. This is definitely the type of franchise where you're not like it's work. It's more fun, and we have so many systems in place that help you. Like you can check all your keg levels through Pour My Beer system, like all digitally. You don't need to go in and detail oriented. That kind of stuff really makes it easy. And then everybody's pouring by the ounce. And you're not losing any cost when they pour because they're the ones pouring it. It's not a bartender who might be giving out drinks to their friends.
Right.
It really has a lot of safeguards for a new franchisee.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Here's a tough question for you, Roman, but, because you've been doing this for a while now, but what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching Tapster? I realize you probably have 100 or 1,000 stories, but does anything like kind of stand out like over the last, several years where you kind of say to yourself, wow?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. You're right. There's been a ton, but the ones that have really touched me are the people that really connect with Tapster emotionally. So that's what I'm trying to do. I love the technology and beer and drinks, but I really want this to be a community place for people that feel comfortable and that have low stress and they feel like they're in their own home. So there was a couple in Chicago that was there basically since we opened the first location. Mm-hmm. They would come every week. They would come every weekend. They're just great people. He ended up proposing to her at Tapster.
Wow.
And, we brought out champagne and did the whole thing. Wow. And then they did their engagement party there, and then they'd come back every year on their anniversary. Great. I mean, that kind of stuff to me is what really touches me. And then one more example is a couple in Philadelphia that literally comes once or twice a week, always during the week. I mean, they're easily in their 70s, late 70s. And every week they come because they can try different things, and there's no pressure, and there's no, kind of, push for them to be talking to people and engaging. They can kind of do their own thing, and they love it. And we take care of them every week. We give them free samples. That kind of stuff is really, really fun. And if you don't mind, one more example.
No, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Super random. So in almost every location, the first one is the one that shocked me. So in Wicker Park, we had 2 or 3 deaf people come into the bar. Okay. And I didn't think about the fact that our system is literally designed as a perfect place for somebody who can't hear.
Right,
because you don't have to talk to the bartender. Right. You don't have to scream at anybody. You can go up and take your time and read everything and learn. It was fascinating. Wow. So then we had a group of about 5 to 10 deaf people in Chicago that would come every week. And that happened in Seattle. That also happened in Philly. Wow. It's really kind of cool and something I didn't think about that blew me away. So I thought you'd enjoy that one.
I do enjoy it, because as you said, it wasn't something you thought about. But I mean, and it's I'm glad you mentioned that part of the story, Roman, because it's wonderful when those things happen. And you'd like to take credit for it sometimes, right? You say like, okay, I thought of this from the beginning, but it just it just works out perfectly, So I think that's a great part of this story. So then, when you decided to start franchising, Roman, I mean, so I know that you meet with, a lot of like the new prospective franchisees. I know Mike probably meets with a lot of them as well. What do you look for? Like, what's important for you in considering taking on a new franchisee?
Yeah, that's obviously a huge consideration for me right now because I'm new into the franchising business. Right. I care so much about my brand. I really want hands-on franchisees who care about their community, where they live, wanting to create something that brings the community together and provides a great place for people to hang out and have memories and create memories. So those are huge things. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you don't have to be a bar owner in the past. You don't have to have worked in the industry. We can easily train that. But I think somebody who really wants to make something out of their community and a better part of their community is great, and make good money in the meantime. I mean, I'm not going to lie, you're going to do well. So, those are the fun byproducts. But I want hands-on, I want passion, and I want somebody who's easy to talk to. I can't, I can't deal with fake people, and I'm not going to have my brand in the hands of somebody who's putting on a show. I want somebody who's genuine. Yeah. Right.
I think a couple of things what you just said, Rome, because it's really powerful. I've always understood, and again, you know this better than I do now because you're part of the industry, but I always heard that if you ever went to a place like a TGI Fridays or something, they always push you to get a drink because drinks are always more profitable, or dessert is always very profitable, So, I mean, it seems to me that, there's a nice profit level when you're talking about your product. One of the things I didn't mention is when I was a much younger person, I guess, in my 20s, I went to bartending school, and I have to tell you, I had to learn all of those drinks, and that was. I have a doctorate degree, and I think that was the hardest test I ever had to take was learning all the drinks. It was just oh my God, I think I studied a whole summer and so that doesn't happen here, does it? I mean, where it's so simplified, and that's why I just think it's borderline brilliant. And you were talking about the story of, the older couple. You mentioned that they were in their 70s. I was kind of thinking the crowd, or the audience that comes in, it seems like it would be from pretty much, of course, the drinking age to an older audience too. I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, who your customers are.
Yeah, and it's interesting. That's been fascinating to me too, because I always just assumed it would be the 20s age, people who just are going out on the weekends and partying. But it depends on the time of day. So a lot of different days, there's different crowds. So, for happy hour, you've got everybody in their 50s, 60s to the 20s too. Obviously, Friday and Saturday night, it's popping with 20-year-olds. Like, that makes sense. That's what people are doing that night. Yeah. But Sunday afternoon, we got families in there. We've got, group people doing 50th, 60th birthday parties. The fun part, too, is that you can bring your own food. I don't focus on food. I don't do kitchen. I like to streamline. So bring your own food. And what we do is I like to partner with a restaurant right next door or within one block. I discuss with them partnership. We put their QR codes on our tables. Their order goes directly to their kitchen. They walk it in. So it's seamless. But you can bring your own food too. But I bring that up. I bring that up to illustrate. I want to help the community. I want to be part of the community and helping other businesses grow.
Right.
So I don't even take a fee on that. I could.
Right.
But I don't, man, because food's not an easy business.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I do. I think it's brilliant as you're describing it, Roman. I'm thinking about, so how does the training work, Roman? I mean, once you decide that you do like them, they like you. I mean, do they come to like a corporate headquarters, or how does like that all work? How do you learn the business?
Yeah, so obviously a big vetting process. Once they're signed on, we bring them to two locations. So Chicago will be the first one. Have them train there. And then after that, take them probably to Philly, because I'll be there. I mean, I'll be there for both. But Philly is another great location to showcase kind of what's going on. Yeah. And obviously, if they're on the West Coast, they go to Seattle and, that. But first it's training on site, and then our support team will go out to their location and train their team, and I'll be there as well, just to help and be part of it. I mean, I'm very hands-on with this brand, so I'll want to be there as much as I can to be part of it as well.
Right. That's fantastic. Now that you're involved in franchising, Roman, I'm sure you keep learning about franchising more every day. And I recently learned that there's I think they said there's 4,000 different systems in the United States. I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point, because most of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. They're kind of new to franchising, and I think they're a little bit overwhelmed in the beginning, oh my God, what industry do I look at? I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
I would say know yourself, know your strength.
Okay.
And tie your strengths and passions into what you're going to do. I mean, entrepreneurship and franchising, it's not easy. It's not a cakewalk.
Right.
You're going to be it's going to take over your life for a while at least.
Right.
So you got to do something that you absolutely love, and if you love money, then I guess it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to just do whatever you want.
That's true.
For me, I need to be passionate about what I'm doing. So my advice would be do something you love, find something you love, and then do it more than everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Roman. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
you're gonna have to be better than everybody else, and that's time, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's hard work like anything else, and so I'm thinking of I'm sure you probably think of the future all the time. I mean, if you can look into a crystal ball, Roman, whether it was a 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, where do you see Tapster down the road?
Yeah, I'd say in the immediate, I'm looking at Tapster Bellevue, which is the second in the Seattle area. That'll open in the next week. So that's my kind of current focus. But then after that, I'm looking at a possible location in Baltimore that might happen. Wow. And then these are corporate locations. And then I've signed on a franchisee in Lexington, Kentucky. So that'll be my first college town.
Right.
See what happens there. Because I think college towns would be great. I think it could be a really fun area to do this. And then after I'm done kind of with my corporate locations, I really want to focus on franchising. And my goal has always been to get to 100 locations. I know that's kind of a bold commitment, but for me, you got to have a goal. And so if I come short of that goal, that's okay. Yeah, but I want that, and I really believe that that this brand could be all over and in every community, because I want it to be part of the community, not just like hey, we're trying to make money.
Right.
It's part of bringing people together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's brilliant, Roman. What's the best way for our listeners, Roman, to get more information on Tapster? Of course, as the franchise opportunity, but maybe even the product or location itself. Any website you can kind of like direct our listeners to?
Sure. Yeah. The best website is tapstertastingroom.com. That'll give you all the information. And then on Instagram, it's at Tapster Philly, at Tapster Seattle, at Tapster Chicago, at Tapster Cleveland. So please check us out. And any information, I really appreciate you taking time to include me in this podcast.
Oh, this is my pleasure, Roman. I've been waiting to talk to you for like a week and a half now, because I was trying to do a lot of background information and research, and I said, oh my God, this is brilliant. I do so many of these interviews, and this is definitely right at the tops, so I'm really glad I got to talk to you today, and I'd already like to maybe invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I'm going to keep watching you.
I'd be honored. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Roman. It was a pleasure to talk to you today, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we will be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919.
Today's Great Quote in Franchising is being brought to you by
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising. For each podcast, you get to hear a great quote in franchising. We've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time, we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today, you're going to get to hear from Sam Hance, who is the president of Stone Coat. And one of the questions we asked Sam when we had him on the show was, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? And Sam talked about the importance of doing a self-evaluation and asking yourself important questions like, what do you like to do? Because in franchising, experience can be taught. So let's listen to what Sam had to say. Probably one of the most qualified people to answer the question, studying your background, Sam, is what advice would you give to our listeners? We call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them are looking to buy a franchise, but as you know, there's so much out there today. We find that a lot of them just simply don't know where to begin, and it becomes a bit overwhelming. So what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Now, Marty, you're touching something that is dear to my heart right now, because this is the part of business that I love, is helping people find their right fit. And that's the primary thing that I tell people. Your starting point is to do a self-evaluation and come up with the things that you like to do. If you are not a hands-on person, don't get into the lawn maintenance business. If you like being outside, there's all kinds of businesses to look at outside. If you're more of a analytical bookkeeping type person, there's franchises there. If you have love food, then food offers great opportunities. So that's the first thing I tell people is really decide what you want to do, what you like to do, not necessarily what you have experience at, because in the franchising world, the experience can be taught. So that's the first point. Second thing I tell people is figure out your resources and don't overextend. The Chamber of Commerce, National Chamber of Commerce, says that the number one reason for business failures in the United States is undercapitalization. So you've got to know your resources and don't overextend it. Talk to the people that are most important to you and get their input. And I always tell people, give your loved ones permission to hurt your feelings if that's what it takes, so they can be brutally honest about what they see in you. Then when you get to the company, research the owners first. Know who the owners are. Go visit them. Make sure that their goals and ambitions align with what you really are looking for. And character is important. It's extremely important. Yeah. And then the second thing you want to research is the industry. Is it a good, stable industry? And instead of some fad that could come and go. And then the third thing is research the franchise model. Most people get that a little out of order because the first thing they want to do is research the franchise model. And I tell them, no, back up and go look at the owners and then look at the industry, and then thirdly is look at that. And finally, franchising is not selling. Franchising is finding good fits and good matches for life ambitions between the franchisee and the franchisor. And if anybody is pushing you or pressuring you to purchase a franchise, then you need to run away from that as fast as you can. The people on the other side of the table from the prospective franchisee should be just as anxious to get involved in understanding what both sides are looking for.
Wow, it's a great answer. We've been doing the show 10 years, and I have to say that's one of the best responses we've had in almost 500 shows. So I could tell you've been doing this a long time.
Thank you.
It just included everything. It's just a great response. So what are the plans then, Sam? I mean, I can ask you as the president of the organization. I mean, where do you see Stone Coat maybe like 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well,
if you'd like to hear that whole interview with Sam Hance of Stone Coat, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchises by category page, and go to our home repair and improvement category. You can hear that whole interview. And Sam had a lot of great advice during that particular show. And finally, we just want to thank everyone for making this podcast such a big success. It's hard to imagine now that we've been doing the show almost 10 years now and approaching 500 shows. So we just want to thank everyone for all their support. And we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.